Virginia Giuffre is dead. She took her own life, or at least that's the story that they want you to believe.
When the scope of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes finally came to light, Virginia Giuffre was the woman at the center of the story, publicly sharing painful details of her own experience. In a statement to NBC News tonight, her family announcing the 41-year-old mother of 3 took her own life, writing she lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse.
Apparently, she's following in the footsteps of her abuser, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we're going to break down the background of this incident and see whether or not it makes sense, whether it seems true since we don't know. She could have. But based on all the information we have at hand, seems unlikely. You see, if you did not know who Virginia Giuffre is, she was the one that brought allegations to the table about Jeffrey Epstein and his excursions while on Little St. James Island. And it became national sensational stuff. And then it became, oh, Jeffrey went to jail. Jeffrey didn't want jail. Jeffrey decided to end himself. And then Maxwell decided to take the fall for him. She went to jail. Nobody else did, even though there were tons of people accused about it, including Prince Andrew. But nobody even paid any price. And Miss Giuffre just kind of got sideways justice, but not really. She'd been living in Australia. And then in March on the 24th, she had an accident. And it was a near-death accident, and she posted pictures of herself in a really bad situation. And she had tweeted out sometime after that, she only had about 4 days left to live based on the conclusions that the doctors came to, blah, blah, blah. But then she tweeted again a couple of weeks later that, hey, I am not suicidal. I have no intentions of harming myself. If you hear anything like that, that is not me. And lo and behold, last week, we hear that she has committed suicide. Could you please, if you're conspirators, please come to the front. We're going to have a small discussion. For those of you who do not believe in conspiracy, you're free to believe the fact that she ended her own life because the stress of the abuse became too much, and she decided to move on to the other plane of existence and be done with it. If you believe that, then the rest of the video may not be for you. However, I would advise you to stay around just in case, something that's being said might persuade you to think that she probably did not do what they said she did. Miss Giuffre actually spent a lot of her life trying to get justice, not just for her, for everybody else that was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Otherwise, she would not have brought the case the way she did it and done the things she's done and give the information she's given and testified as much as she's given. That wouldn't happen. For somebody who wanted to see the end of this through, it seemed kind of odd that she would decide to go out the same way that her perpetrator went out. Symbolically, I wouldn't do it. If I were to, the best jab I could take at Jeffrey Epstein would be to live. And not just live the kind of life that he wanted me not to. Make sure I accomplished the things that he didn't want me to. In spite of. And she's been saying that for a long time. In fact, that was her mantra. That she was a strong individual, that she made it out. She wanted to bring more attention to this arena of child trafficking. She wanted people to know. So why would Virginia commit suicide? Why, after all this time, after going through the case she went through, would she decide that now is the time to end it all? I have nothing more to live for. Why would the trauma all of a sudden, especially after having gone through the case, all of a sudden now this is the linchpin, I'm done. The problem is that we don't believe that she did that. The why? Unknown there. The how? Unknown there. None of the reasonings make sense. Okay, so you have people that have gone to jail and no one else has. You have a couple of people in this big limelight that have gone onto the other plane. The Pope passed. This dude stepped down. A bunch of stuff happening across the world, but none of them seem to lend credence to the fact that, oh, now that this has happened, she might be afraid for something, and then she decide to end her. That doesn't make any sense. Nothing that has happened is linked to her. Unless, of course, you know or have some information on the inside that something's about to drop. And if something's about to drop, the only person that could be the next person to speak on would be her. We can't have her around, allegedly. We can't have her around. We got to get rid of her. What's the best way to get rid of any problem we have? Uh-oh, look what they did. We just walked into this house and found her laying there. We don't know what happened. We were talking to her just this morning. Oh, my heart, I hurt. They've done this before. The people that want to protect themselves have done this before. This ain't news. But did she get Epstein? Or did all the pain and trauma finally get after being injured? Because this happens too. I've been having my surgery. I'm down on the chair and I can't do nothing. And all of a sudden, all my happiness leaves. And I feel this absolute depressive thing upon me because I can't do what I wanted to do. I'm no longer in a position where I can be something. And all of a sudden, my life don't feel nearly as important. I can see that. I can see that happening. Fresh off of an accident, your life is kind of altered. You've been given a bad prognosis. But in order to keep people at least a little bit okay with you, you say, I don't want to leave this earth. But then you, in your back of your mind, you really do, and you do it. That could be one scenario. Or the accident itself could have been ordained to try and take you out, and it didn't work. I saw somebody post a video of the accident and how it would have happened. It almost felt like it was an intentional accident, and that it was intended to either, one, send a signal to her, you're done or your time is up, or to actually say, we are done, this is your end. And she lived. The living part was the one that didn't bank on happening, and she did. And then they decided, all right, since that's the case, we're going to use this scenario to, that's the conspiracy. That there is some entity out there, some people, a person, something that did not want Virginia to speak anymore. Maybe she had an upcoming case that she was going to speak on. Perhaps, all we know, they might be going after people on the list, actual tangible people outside of just Jeffrey, and that one of the people knew that was going to happen and they had to end the one person that saw her. For all we know, it could be anybody. There are a whole lot of reasonings as to this could have been happening. It could not just be suicide. It could just be something completely different, which is where I'm kind of leaning. I'll give you my personal 2 cents. I believe this. I believe that Virginia Giuffre had not stopped her battle to get justice for herself since Jeffrey Epstein's death. Maxwell was not enough. We needed the clients to go to death as well. Now you have people coming forward and say, we need the list. And then there's somebody saying, we're going to drop the list. Someone finds out they're about to drop the list. You had tons of Jane Does and Jim Does and Frank Doe, all kind of Does all over the paperwork. And now there might be names attached to it. Names attached to it that Giuffre knows. Giuffre could corroborate these things as well. He didn't want to have a Jane Doe name. He didn't want to have a John Doe name, but Giuffre knows both names, and we can't have her saying and corroborating what they're bringing out. So to get ahead of that, she ended herself. She just had an accident that we tried. It didn't work. We got to do a phase 2, and it's got to be quick. We can't afford a turnaround. We can't afford a 4, 5, 6 month intervene. We have to do it back to back. So the accident, and within weeks, she was gone. I personally do not for a minute believe that Virginia Giuffre ended her own life. Call me a conspiracy theorist all you want. I genuinely believe that somebody arranged for it or did it to get rid of her. Because somewhere along the line, they knew that something was coming to incriminate them. Now, I do hope, because we already have eyes on this from Trump Jr. and all them people, so I hope somebody finds some information. The problem is this. She's not a U.S. citizen. So, I mean, what you going to do about it, really? Not much. You can encourage people to investigate. You can do all that, of course. But how is that actually going to help you? There's a whole lot to unpack here. The theories are going to fly rampantly all over the place. But at the end of the day, we just saw the end of one of the most, from what the paperwork said, abused people in history. Trafficked at the hand of this man for a very young age through multiple places and multiple people. in multiple reasons and ways. And at the end of her life, she either was at witness to something so nefarious upon her, or she couldn't take what demons were tormenting her based on what she went through. In either case, it's a very sad end. A very sad end. And the odd thing is, she never got justice. Not once. And that's what's even worse. I think for me, that's the worst for her, is that she got to live long enough to never see one of her perpetrators really pay the kinds of time that they ought to. Maxwell getting 20 years, slap in the face. Absolute slap in the face. That should have been life. It should have been life, but it wasn't. Jeffrey should have been alive long enough to get his sentencing. That didn't happen either. Live. Not sure he's dead. This could be, hey, here's another conspiracy. It could be that Jeffrey's still alive and he put the hit out. Think about that one. He said, oh, you want to put me in jail? You trying to get me and my enterprise shut down? How about this? That poor girl went through a lot from a very young age, and she had to live with all that memory until the day that she passed at 41. I do pray that no one else has to go through that nonsense. But unfortunately, millions do. Thousands on this continent alone do. And there's very little, and I mean very little, that people do for them. And most of them do end up, unfortunately, taking their own life. Because one, nobody cares, and two, the trauma of what happened to them is way too much. And when you try to bring attention to it, nobody listens. But we talk about it a big game. We talk a lot about it. The children. And when you finally get the chance to help one of them, everybody goes radio silent. Our condolences to the Giuffre family. This is a very big loss. We understand it fully. And we do hope that justice is served one way or another, whether you find out outright that she did indeed do this to herself, or whoever the perpetrator of this was upon that young girl, they get brought to justice. Or whatever your thoughts are, please leave them in the comment section below. We look forward to interacting with you.